joining us, my special guest is Dr. Garret Pachtinger. He's the COO of Vet Girl. He's an emergency and critical care specialist, and he's the medical trauma director at our friends at VSEC, which is a 24-hour specialty and referral center in the Levittown, Philly area, and soon to be Conshohocken.
We were chatting about some things in general to keep our pets away from emergent situations, but during the holiday time, a couple of very specific foods and toxins that I wanted to make sure everyone was aware of. And I think that over the past couple of years, we're seeing fewer cases of grapes and raisin toxicity, but they're still prevalent. Sometimes I feel like things come in runs. We had just a few cases the other week came in right around the same time. And so we still want to promote the awareness that grapes and raisins can be toxic for our dogs. Not a lot of literature out there on cats, and cats are a little bit too silly to get into grapes and raisins. But, there are a lot of people that say, I've had dogs my whole life and we fed them grapes or raisins as treats. We thought that was healthy. What do you mean that's toxic? That's a great question. The problem is, as a veterinary community, not just Dr. T or myself or our hospitals, that we don't know. It's as a veterinary community, it's unclear as to why grapes and raisins cause toxicity. We don't know if it's the green or the purple grapes, if it's the California versus another area, if it's the type of pesticide, if it's seeded or no seeds. It's unclear as to why this causes toxicity, but we do know there are some dogs that get into even just a handful of grapes and they go into bad kidney failure that doesn't have a cure and it doesn't have an antidote. We try to support them through that, but the reality is just a few grapes, even to a smaller, medium-sized dog, can cause really irreversible kidney failure. So the best medicine is prevention in this case, to make sure that our dogs are not getting grapes or raisins. And if they do, to call your veterinarian right away, because the best treatment for that is early decontamination. So getting those grapes and raisins out, and then further treatment like fluid therapy. So best prevention, keep your pets away from those grapes and raisins.
Not to be morbid about this, but so if you get that case where the pet has ingested grapes, and we've gone beyond the time frame of being able to get those grapes out of the system, so they've already been digested. What sort of success rate for recovery is there?
Great question. The first thing I would say, though, taking one step back, is if your pet does get into something like grapes and raisins or anything else, I would recommend calling your veterinarian before, for example, inducing vomiting, because there are some things which are safe to induce vomiting and there are some things that are not safe. And honestly, some things don't require inducing vomiting. So I know a lot of pet owners, the first thing they think about is, my dog ate something, let's get it out. It is, I think, well worth your time to take a few moments to call a veterinarian, whether it's Dr. T or if they're not open a 24-hour facility like VSEC, to make sure that it is appropriate and safe to induce vomiting at home. Going back to then your more specific question, so let's just say it is maybe 6 or 8 hours after eating the grapes and raisins, and we think that potentially inducing vomiting is no longer a great option. There are times that we may administer still activated charcoal. Activated charcoal is a substance just like people get when they eat something they shouldn't. It's a black liquid that has the toxin bind to it. So not to be gross, but eventually they poop it out rather than it going round and around in the body to promote its toxicity. Ultimately, then what we do is we'll put them on high rates of intravenous fluids for a couple of days. The best discussion I can have is it helps flush out the kidneys. The medical term is diuresis, not dialysis, but diuresis, to really keep those kidneys well hydrated, well perfused, and working well. And I do think that a vast majority of cases that come in early, that we can get some decontamination on, that we give fluids, within 48 to 72 hours, we do well. There absolutely are a handful of cases, though, that end up with kidney problems. Some are short-term, some end up being a little bit more chronic and long-term, but I would say the early intervention, so it's not waiting, it's getting them seen early, is the best thing, because I think we can get them through that with little or few complication from that. So I do think our prognosis for treating them is very good, but it has to be early treatment. We don't want to see them when their kidney values are already elevated, because if you see them then, you worry their prognosis is much worse as a result.
Okay, and that's great. And just as an addition is just always have your veterinarian and the local 24-hour, the closest one or the one you like dealing with in your phone as a speed dial. So it's always there, because emergent situations, you're stressed and it's tough to look things up. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. You can listen every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. to Your Pet Matters on 107.7 The Bronx with me. If you missed that, we're podcasting on iTunes. All you have to do is search under Your Pet Matters.